Welcome back to another how-to video. Today's video is on how to do kitchen cabinets. With this, I'm going to bring our expert cabinet installer, Dan. He'll be taking you through on how to install the cabinets, how to do the easiest way. As you see, these are pre-made cabinets. They're the Home Depot, Lowe's, Menard type cabinets. They're the cheapest. Just remember, these kind of cabinets and countertops, if you're going to flip a house, is the best way to go. You don't have the high dollar of custom cabinetry because you will not get your money back out of it. So these look good, they'll hold up to whatever you need, and you can get in and get out and do them, and you can do these yourself. So here's Dan to show you how to do it.
Hi YouTube, my name is Dan. I work for Cogo Capital, Arnold Professional Holdings. Today I'll just show you a little bit of DIY, how to hang some cabinets. These houses aren't perfectly square usually, so a lot of times just problem solving. It's not like new construction. New construction is a lot easier hanging cabinets. So there's a lot of tricks and tips that I've learned throughout the years hanging these, and I'll try to show you as many of them as I can. So anyway, first thing is we got our cabinets here. These ones just come from the box stores. They call, Home Depot, Lowe's, something like that. So when you unbox these, you always want to check to make sure that they're not damaged. So we'll see how this one looks. So just kind of do a quick walk around, make sure nothing's chipped or broken or cracked or anything like that. This one looks pretty good. Earlier I unboxed one that was broken, so that one's obviously going to have to be returned and get a new one to replace it.
Why don't you show that one to me? It's over
that one is over here, and I'm going to have to be careful with it because the whole thing wants to fall apart. As you can see, I just opened it with the box and it looks like this. So that one we will not be able to use. Okay. See, the whole frame is actually busted.
Okay.
So anyway, with that said, we can go ahead and start doing these other ones while we wait for the replacement. So the first thing I like to do is just try to set things where they go, so that we have a good layout. I've also started marking some measurements on the walls. That just helps me figure out pretty much where each cabinet goes. And the way I like to do it is hang the uppers first, so that way you have space to walk and so on. You're not trying to reach over the bottom cabinets. Alright, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to start hanging this upper cabinet that goes over the fridge that'll be right here. Now, one thing that I noticed is this piece of trim up here. It's been up here for who knows how long. But anyway, this is going to have to be cut out and have to come back somewhere around here, just the depth of this cabinet. The reason why is because the back of these cabinets are all square and this piece of trim isn't. So that way when you go to hang it, then there's going to be a gap and you won't be able to level it correctly. So what I'm going to do with that is I have what's called a multi-tool, and we use these a lot. They come in real handy. You can get up there, got pretty close to where you need it and pretty accurate. So before I do that, I want to cut away some of this old paint and probably caulk that they have on here, so that way it's easier to pull off when I'm done. So I'm just going to take my blade, just try to run a line along the top best I can. The top and bottom. Okay, now that's ready to go. So this upper cabinet is going to be 36 inches. So that's what this mark is here. And so to find out where I need to cut, I'm just going to go 36 inches from this wall. There's my line there, so I can go ahead and cut this. Now obviously there's going to be another cabinet, upper cabinet right here, so I'm going to have to cut a little bit more of it. But this is just kind of to show demonstration purposes, just how to cut, you know, pretty accurate, and then take it off, and then that way you can install that so it's flat, flush. So from the back side, you'll go 12 inches and make a mark. And then you'll cut both the top and bottom again. And again, I'm just cutting that so it's a little bit easier to pull off. Also, if it's going to be a visible area, like maybe part of the base, you know, where you can see it with normal foot traffic, then you can cut around the edges like that, so that way it doesn't peel all the paint. So now that I have that cut and marked, cut those edges like that. Now I'll grab my flat bar and pry that off, and then we should be able to hang the cabinet. Yeah, now that we have this trim cut off of the ceiling and wall there, we should be able to put this in its place and then be able to screw it in. We also want to make sure that when we hang it, everything is level as far as the ceiling and the wall. Normally, you'll have more head height than in this kitchen. This kitchen is pretty small, so what we're going to do is just hang the cabinets all the way to the ceiling. Other times, if you have higher ceilings, then you'll drop the cabinets down a little bit lower, and you'll have a gap on top. As I said, this one we're just going to go all the way to the top. So, I'll grab my level. And I want to make a line, kind of a guide line. So it's 12 inches in the ceiling. So it's roughly this line here. So we're going to go over to the 36 mark, which is right here. This will be where the cabinet ends. And 12 inches will be right here. I'm going to want to take my level, get a line here. So we should be able to hang the bottom of that cabinet right at about this line. Now you also see some other marks right here and here. These are marks for the studs. You can see how this one's just gonna miss it. And the way I found the stud is if you look down here at this outlet, you can actually see it, and it goes up like that. Now studs are 16 on center. Older houses, sometimes they have weird framing. Sometimes you just don't know what's behind them. So this one I marked 16 on center from this stud. So theoretically, when I hang this cabinet, then I can screw in up here somewhere and find the stud. And then the corner usually always has a stud right here unless they have some sort of weird bad framing. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put this up there. We'll see where we're at with it, and hopefully we can just throw some screws in it and be done with the first one. So here's some of the screws and different things that you may need when you go to hang these cabinets. These cabinets are going to be hung with these cabinet screws. Now they have different lengths. This one's 1.5 inch long. And they're a little bit different than common screws because you can see the head on them is a lot wider, so that way it holds the cabinets better and it doesn't destroy the back of the cabinets when you go to screw this in. There's different lengths to them. You can get, you know, this is over 3 inches, so or 3 1/8 inch long. These ones are 2 3/4 long. So it all depends on how deep you want to go with it. If you think you have some electrical or something like that behind it, use some shorter ones. If you have layers of sheetrock that are doubled up, something like that, you can use the longer ones. Just kind of, it's different to each situation. Now these ones are a little bit different. You can see the heads on these are a lot smaller, and what I'm going to use these for is to actually screw the cabinets together. So I'll show you that here in a little bit, but basically this will go through the edge of one frame of a cabinet and go through the frame of another one, so they're going to be almost completely hidden, but that'll basically attach both cabinets together to make them basically one big cabinet, make them a lot stronger. Shims, obviously, those are going to be, you know, for the bottoms. Sometimes you need the shims for the tops, especially if the walls are crooked or, you know, just not straight and square like they should be. Here's some other basic tools that you'll need. You need a drill. This bit is specifically for these cabinet screws. This one is a T15. These ones are a little smaller, so these are going to be T10. And usually when you buy these, they'll have tips that come with them. Another thing that you may need, especially for the countertop, just a skill saw. Try to get one with a sharp blade so you don't tear up the edges when you cut. Other things, some vice grips. That's to put the cabinets together before you run the trim screw through them, and that just helps keep everything in place. One last thing that you may or may not need, they have different types of these, but these are toggle bolts. If you run into a situation where you're trying to hang a cabinet and there's nothing behind it, you can use some form of these toggle bolts, and they go just like that. So what you'll want to do is drill a hole bigger than that piece of hardware, slip that through, that'll fan out, and I actually have that backwards. So I'll go like, no, I have to edit that. Right the first time. So anyway,
Okay.
so then you put this through the hole, that'll expand out, go ahead and tighten it. This will catch on the sheetrock, and you go ahead and tighten it that way. I would not recommend hanging a cabinet with only toggles, because it's not going to be as strong as running a screw through the stud. You don't want to have someone put some dishes in there and have the whole cabinet fall off the wall. So these are just kind of the last resort type of deal. And I'll just go ahead and hang that. Hopefully. So next, what I'm going to do is put this 30-inch upper on. It's a little bit bigger than the one that we just put on. If you're by yourself, you can hang a board, you know, right around where you're going to be hanging the cabinet itself. You want to go just below it, so that way you can actually get the cabinet to sit on it, so that way you have a little bit of wiggle room. So I marked my line here. This is going to be the bottom of the cabinet. This is level. These marks here are for studs. Now, this one I thought was a stud, but wasn't. Normally they're 16 on center studs, whereas this one is 24 on center. That means the next one should be way over here. So sometimes it can be challenging just trying to find studs to hang the cabinets. So you can always, if you're not sure where they're at, you can always run sheetrock screws or whatever you have above this line, so that way the cabinet will cover it, and then you can make a mark below it, so that way when you hang it, then you know where it is, and you hopefully only have one hole through the back of the cabinet. So go ahead and get this in place.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to find the screws to hang this cabinet. I don't want to make the screws super tight just yet because I want to be able to line up the two edges of these cabinets. So that way when the screws are loose, you still have a little bit of play in it. And once you screw the two cabinets together, then you can finish tightening all these screws. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do, I took these doors off, but now I'm going to screw these cabinets together. And like I said, this is the reason why you have these screws a little bit loose, so you can move it just a little bit, because you want to try to get these frames flush with each other. So that's what these clamps are for. So you can kind of pull it out just a little bit. And this one I'm actually going to use a shim to help me with. So when you're real close like that, you can just run a shim through the back of the cabinet, and that should hold it right in place. And then this top is pretty close, and see how this moves just a little bit? That's because my screws are a little bit loose. I want to get that as close as I possibly can. And then once I'm happy with that, then I'll go ahead and clamp it. That way it holds everything nice and tight and flush. And you don't really need a second one on this one, but I'll do it anyway. Just make sure it doesn't move on me. Okay, now that you have the two cabinets together, go ahead and take these smaller finish screws, and you can go right next to this screw here. Then that way when you go ahead and put your cabinet doors back on, this hardware will cover the hole, and then you don't see any extra holes on your cabinets. And one thing you definitely want to do with these is you want to drive them in straight. If you don't, they'll come through the face of the cabinet. So that's secured now. Now I'll do this top one. Okay, and now these two cabinets are basically one big cabinet. Now some people like to put them together on the ground and then hang them. I don't like doing that, especially with these walls aren't straight, ceiling's crooked. Just run into a bunch of problems. That's why I like doing these one at a time. So now that that's done, you go ahead and pop these back off, and you can finish mounting this cabinet.